Welcome back to You Don't Know Her, the mindset podcast all about creating the best life for yourself, one by design, not by default. And today I'm absolutely delighted to be joined by Ben Ruddick, the singer-songwriter from the Northeast. How are you doing, Ben?
Very well, thank you. Thank you for having me on.
You're very welcome. Yeah, good to see you. So, I was very keen since we've been speaking before you come in today. But I've seen you before. I've seen your music. I know all about your band and Gone Tomorrow and everything like that. But do you want to just give us a little overview of kind of your journey to the point you're at now and kind of what you're on with musically at the moment?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I'm, as you've mentioned, I'm Ben Ruddick and I am 21 years old from Teesside, via Manchester currently. And I'm sing and I write songs for a band called Gone Tomorrow, and I've done that since I was 15, and that's been my main kind of creative outlet. And then other things have kind of come and gone throughout, and then Gone Tomorrow has been my kind of constant. And I've done, I did some spoken word stuff. I did another little band for a bit, so I've popped up in various guises and forms and disguises.
Yeah.
But if people have seen me before, they'll have probably seen me through Gone Tomorrow.
Yeah, that's certainly the first exposure I had to you, I think, was the Gone Tomorrow. It was, I think you were 17 at the time, and you were there with a horde of college students.
Yeah, and I can imagine it was carnage back in them days.
It was an interesting time.
Was it like a school disco and got out of hand?
Yeah, it's exactly that. But it was very interesting to see the kind of the vibe in the room for your set, and then because at that time of you were probably doing lots of bands on the billing and things like that.
Yeah.
I don't know. How's it kind of gone now? You're more in Manchester. You're still on billings with lots of other bands. And what's kind of you doing at the moment?
It's funny because we had a funny thing in Teesside where that kind of scene of young bands. There's a lot more now in Teesside, but there wasn't that many when we were doing it. So we hadn't done many gigs before they started putting us on like last, which was weird because then you're not really getting exposed to new people if you're on last, if you're headlining. So we'd have all of those college people would come. But it was difficult to get any bigger because people are entrusting you in playing last, which is lovely, and it's nice to see your name in big letters and not small letters. But in terms of, you almost have to take a hit to your ego and realise that supporting people is far better, So we're trying to get as many big support slots as possible. Would be good, but we've had a couple of headlining things in Manchester, and most of them are like, there'll be 4 or 5 bands on, and then people have trusted us a lot with playing last, which is funny because we have a following building in Manchester, but I think the most powerful thing you can do when you're trying to grow your band is whoever the cool hype band are in the city will go on before them, and then if people like them, then they might like you, and do that for a little while. I feel like that's massively underrated.
I've always said this. I've always said get there early. If you're paid to see a headline act that you're interested in, the chances are that support acts are going to be the same sort of thing, or they're going to be very, they'll have been picked by the headline artist kind of thing. Because I was just seeing a band called Squeeze, which were a big, massive band in the 70s and 80s and onwards, and I was so excited to see them. I didn't know who the support act was, and I was saying to everyone I was going with, let's go see the support act then, and they were like, they weren't interested. I got in there, it was Badly Drawn Boy, who was a big artist back in the early 2000s, and I was thinking they would have probably quite happily missed this, if it wasn't up to me.
It's funny.
But yeah, so I think when I saw you, I'm testing my memory here, but were you on the billing with Glass Caves or the Rackets? Was that one?
Yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah.
And he had some bills at that point in time. We were on some stuff because we started there, our first ever rehearsal was there. We grew up around that place. And then after COVID, when they reopened, all of their first gigs they started putting us on because they knew we'd bring 150 daft kids. So it was mint, and every single one was like bouncing, and it was great. And then my mum and granddad would just be stood at the back observing all of this carnage that was happening. But it was really, really good for us because those formative stages of being in a band where you got to learn how crowds react and how you get them to go crazy, and then how you get them to go a bit sad, and then how you get them to go crazy again. And you can do that in the space of one song. But I feel like we learn a lot about how to construct a live set that'll keep people engaged. And again, certain things that you think are going to work well. Like, oh, I'll play this fantastic 7-minute heartbreak ballad, and then everyone goes outside to smoke or goes for another pint.
Yeah.
And I feel like we played Any loads in those early days, and it was fantastic for us because we learned all of the right and wrong ways of and things that worked for us and didn't. Like we really learned on the job, and I'm very grateful for those early days. And every time Any managed to book like a big name, they'd always sneak us on first, so they did us a favour with that.
Yeah, oh,
like Reverend and the Makers did he did a DJ set, and then we got to play before that and stuff like that. And we've been lucky in Teesside because it can be difficult when you're young to get taken seriously, and we found that for a couple of years. And then we kind of had to just keep reminding people that we weren't rubbish, repeat over and over again, you know, because there's some quite substantial promoters with a lot of links in Teesside, and we're not. It's not a dead spot at all, you know, but we just had to keep reminding them that I know we're 12, but I promise we've got something here, and then. We've been really lucky because every time somebody big has come to town, and I hope it keeps happening, you know. Yeah. Even on bigger stages, you know.
It's very difficult to have that kind of established, before you've established an audience, essentially, to come in onto as a 17-year-old, you know, lads or whatever you may be, to get onto a stage and not have that. What you'd have if you were the headline act of fans already loving it before they've even seen you, already whooping and hollering for you. You've kind of got to win them over every night, haven't you?
It's funny. I think one of the things that's really worked in, I was going to say our, but I think just my favour in terms of, in my very short musical career so far, is just absolute blind faith in it. And you need that, I think, because when I was 50, and I'm not like this in other areas of my life at all, so it catches people by surprise. But I've been telling people that I was gonna be the front man of a band since I was 10.
Oh, wow.
I've been telling people my whole life that I was gonna be a rock star. Just like the same way you say you would be a fireman. But I think part of me did believe that I could do it, but which was funny because I didn't play the guitar at that point. I played a bit of piano or whatever, but I just was convinced. And then when I started the band, I was 15, and we were like, as all bands are when you're that young, we weren't anything to write home about. We were just kind of messing around. But I was telling anyone that would listen that we had something, and you almost have to believe it even before you're good enough to. You have to, not before anyone else does, way before that. You don't have the talent yet. You don't have the ability yet. You're absolutely not good enough to have that much faith in it. But I was 15 telling my mates that they shouldn't bother going to uni because we should just live in a van or a tent and just be rock stars because we were good enough to. When I knew 3 chords, you know, but it really is. I just was belligerent, and then I'm starting to like cash in on that. I'm nowhere near like where, but I'm only scratching the surface. But I'm starting to really cash in on a blind faith and a gamble that I took that was just like, no, it will happen. And now we're actually quite good, and I could do a tapping into a bit of like 14-year-old me's blind faith. Like it's a really powerful thing to just go, no, I am. You know,
I was so interested about what you said because James Blunt was on a podcast recently, or a little while ago, on the High Performance podcast, and he was saying that his album Back to Bedlam, the CD of his kind of his breakthrough thing, he said he's never going to have that again because he had this young naivety at the time. He said, I was confident, but I was naive, and that's why I was confident. He said, and that's why I knew. As I was putting that album out, I said to myself, this is the best album in the world. This is, everyone needs to buy this. Everyone's going to buy this. And then he said, and they all did. And he said he talks to Ed Sheeran, and he said Ed Sheeran's always had that throughout his career.
It's
and he
funny.
said that's why Ed Sheeran always, every single album is, Ed Sheeran's going, this is my best work. This is everyone's going to buy this. Everyone's going to love this. And for the most part, they all do. It's always a success with Ed Sheeran. So there is something into manifesting that belief in yourself that that will just spread the news from you and get others to believe in it as well? Is that kind of what you're driving at?
Yeah, and I think when I was younger, it was a bit more outward looking because, you know, it's this is gonna be great and I'm gonna be a massive rock star. Whereas nowadays, I think it's a bit more intrinsic. It's a bit more, I love making things. You can't take that off me. I win. I can't lose because it's not about you. It's about me.
Yeah.
And I think I've always written and made with, in recent years, I'm the audience first and foremost. Yeah. It's mint if people like it and if my friends like it. But it's the act of creating and how cathartic that is, and as a way of working through things, learning about things, fleshing things out. That process is the process is by far the most important. That's the whole thing. Yeah. And then the outcome. Some days you'll get good stuff. Some days you'll get nothing worth. But it doesn't matter. It absolutely doesn't matter. You just got to kind of. Yeah, it's like turning on a tap and waiting for it to get cold. You know, you just gotta wait until something comes out. But kind of, I still have that confidence in my creativity and my songwriting, not even in like a results, because it's not about that. And I think with anything subjective like art, or like anything, if you set yourself up for your goal to be people to like it, it's gonna be boring. Yeah, probably. Yeah. You know, because I think I learned that quite early when people started reviewing things I'd made, and I absolutely despised it. I couldn't take feedback or anything. Yeah. But then I think I realised that unless I can stand over it, I'll never be able to take critique. Unless I can 100% stand over the thing I've made as it being exactly how I wanted it to be. Yeah. So, because I feel like it's a consequence of, if you write anything vulnerable or anything inward looking, and then somebody judges it or your band, it's very difficult to not see that as a judge of your entire self. Yeah. I think it's something that artists, it takes their entire career to work through. But I think one thing I have learned is, as long as everything I'm putting out, I can stand over it and say that was the best, that was who I was at the time, that's the best I can do at the time. It's way easier than if you've like, I don't know, sold out a bit on it, or like diluted it. If you're getting judged on something that's diluted, you'll hate that way more than something that's unadulterated. This is how I felt. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
That makes complete sense. It's just saying that you're kind of progressing. You've got to. You know that you've got to develop, but also that you're true to your original message. Is that kind of what you're trying to say in a way?
Yeah, and just that you haven't compromised on what you were trying to say. Yeah. That is the rawest and purest. That's how I wanted that song to be. Not I took that bit out because I thought it would be a bit, or I turned that down for somebody. Yeah. And then somebody goes, I don't like that song. Because then they're not even judging you on your instincts. They're judging you on something you tried to make for them to like it. Yeah. You know.
The thing is, the old phrase is, a camel is a horse designed by committee. You know, it's if everyone has a finger in the pie, a lot of the time it doesn't, you know.
Absolutely.
It doesn't go anywhere. I was just saying, I was watching a episode of a TV show called Black Mirror. Which is, it's got Miley Cyrus in this one episode, and it's basically a parody on her Hannah Montana career almost, and it's basically, she's this, on the TV show, she's this global star, and she wants to do her own creative stuff, but everyone's telling her she has to do the stuff that the fans love, and at one point she's done her own makeup to be a bit darker and a bit edgier, and they're like, no, you've got to do the thing that everyone wants to see. And it's the whole point of the episode is everyone's pushing her down and saying they don't care about you, they care about like the person you've created. Yeah. And it's like, and then everyone's just so money focused, and that's why it is. But she started to hate her own work, and that's what you're saying. If you try and please everyone all the time, you're not going to get anywhere. Yeah. You have to just be authentic, do what you do and what you enjoy doing, and then it's going to bring in an audience of people that relate to that, isn't it?
Absolutely. And if the more authentically you create, the more you'll get out of it. And at the moment I'm enjoying being in this band so much because I've got a set list of songs where every single one of them I go, that's the best song I can write right now. I can't write any better than that. They're my best lyrics, they're my best melodies, and they're my best mates, and we're playing it as well as we can possibly play it. And honestly, receive it however you want. I'd love it if you loved it, but it's also absolutely fine if you don't. Because that's you're well within your rights to think this is rubbish. But I want to make it like abundantly clear to everyone in the crowd that I love it. You know, because that's really important. That's really important. And now the song that we've been opening the set on, which is my favourite song I've ever written. The band go on and they start playing, and then there's like it drops in really cool, and then I get to walk on, and I get to stand side stage for like 45 seconds, a minute, and watch my mates play this thing that is in my head the best thing I've ever written, and that's really meaningful. More meaningful than like loads of kids moshing. Loads of kids moshing is mint. But I'm watching my friends play a thing that I made, and then they're like, it's like painting by numbers. I'll draw it out and then we'll kind of paint it together. You know what I mean? So that there is a kind of, they can flesh out something that they bring a new element to it that I can't. I only have 2 limbs and so much musical talent. 4 limbs, I don't know what I'm on about. 2 arms. I assure you I have 4 limbs. But if you can't see on the cameras. But you get what I mean. And then I get to watch that, and as like kind of opening theme of the whole thing, and it means I walk on very confident and sure of, this is us and this is what we do, and it's a great way to open a set, and like grounded in who I am currently as an artist. It's the most like quintessential me piece of music, and I'm okay. I'm just going to do me to the 11th degree, and then we'll kind of see how it goes. You know?
That's perfect. That's everything. It's very related to my whole podcast. You Don't Know Her is built around a song lyric. It's Billie Eilish's lyric, "My Future." It's I'm in love with my future, but you don't know her. Is the lyric, and the thing with her music is she's got a massive hits that everyone relates to, "Bad Guy" and "Lovely" and things like that, and everyone loves those ones. But she's got some hits that like is only for her really and for her fans and things like that. And those and my favourite song she's ever done is one called "I Love You," and it's about her first ever time she was in love with someone when she was 16, and then just before she had this big massive gig to do, or it was around that era, she basically broke up with this guy, like and she was still in love with him, and then the whole thing about her and her brother Phineas is they wrote everything together on the bed, and in this thing on the stage they've got a bed and it's getting elevated up to like the heavens, and then she's singing about the lyric is like getting lost in Central Park and "I love you," and everyone in the crowd is like crying and on people and then she just can't sing it. She starts crying and she's like, she just stops, so he's just like keeps playing the guitar and stuff, and but it's like it's just she physically can't get the words out and stuff like that, and that's what, even though it's not one of her big hits at all, like compared to anything like Bad Guy or anything like that, but it's just so emotional. It's like she's 17-year-old doing this. She didn't listen to everyone that said we need hits, you know. She still thought, well, I'm just going to do this because I love it, and people are going to love it too, and they all did. Everyone in the crowd was really vibing with it.
You can tell where something's been created from, can't you? Because Sheila made that to try and make sense of this situation she was in. And everyone can sense that, be it consciously or just they can subliminally just sense the significance of this thing to somebody, and you can't really replicate that. You can't fake that. Like bands you look at bands that are doing really well at the moment, like Wonder Horse or somebody, who are like a big hype, like they're being like heralded as the next like rock thing, you know, and they've been touted around as all kinds of stuff, but sincerity from like Wonder Horse is like sincerity through the lens of guitars, and I saw them support Fontaines DC in Stockton maybe 2 years ago, and I was like, wow, that was raw, you know. But I feel like people when everything's so online and 15 seconds of this and 10 seconds of that, when somebody just comes in and there's just like that unbridled sincerity, I feel like we need that at the moment, probably. And those are the things that, even though they're the most difficult to create and they're the most frightening to create, I feel like that's going to be a big that's going to be, you know, hopefully a trend. I mean, that would be a nice trend in music if it was just people yelling about things they really cared about, whatever that might be. I feel like.
Yeah.
Do you think?
I agree with you. I agree with you. I think that I've always said the best songs, it doesn't matter the genre, it doesn't matter what the actual song's about, as long as you believe it, as long as it's like, you can tell it's from someone's heart. And I was going to ask you actually about sincerity. Is that something you've always done, or have you explored with trying to write commercial music and things like that, or have you always said, you know what, I'm just going to write what I feel? What's kind of been your journey on that side of it?
Never commercial. I've never, because it's always for me been, once I wrote my first song, I knew that I would never be able to not do that ever in my whole, it was like I was writing songs before I played the guitar, which was weird. I was writing things in my head, or I'd be imagining this song and then realise it didn't exist. If that is weird. I'd just be like, I'd be imagining it in a band playing it and like the words and stuff, and I'd be like, oh, that's nobody else's. So then I started learning the guitar, and then I started fleshing things out. But once I'd turned that songwriting, the creative thing, well, I think the creative thing was there, but I'd found somebody had given me a paintbrush and a blank canvas and gone, there you go. And then every single chord progression I played, it was the first time I'd ever played it, because it's the first time. So every night I've got 5 more songs for a little while. And but I don't think it was ever about this one's going to sound great at something. It was just the joy and the catharsis of making it, and then later on you can kind of go, oh, wouldn't this be great if? But there's certainly been times I look back across, it's funny, I call it a catalogue, and people will be like, how are you, 21? But there's 6 years worth of stuff, and I've got thousands and thousands of voice memos, so like it is a bit of a, albeit in its formative stages, and like, because my dad still calls out for my old hits, the stuff like, oh, what about that one you played me on your 16th birthday? Like they're the ones he wants me to play, because I think there's a naivety to them, to him, that he wishes that he was like, he loves them. But there's been times where it's not necessarily been about commercial, but I've tried to sound too much like my influences in those early days. And I think you can hear it a lot, like, that's not your voice, Ben, or you don't talk like that. There'll be a passage where I'm like, you wouldn't say that. Because I feel that the way in which I write songs is quite similar to the way I talk. And so it comes across these days quite naturally. But I look back, I think around the ages of like 17, 18, I kind of was probably trying to align myself too much with influences, or it just fit myself into funny places. Whereas now I feel like I've probably reached a more natural point. But I think the fact of the matter is I write way less than I used to for like complete songs. But everything I finish, every song that I write goes straight away in the set. But I write I write words all the time. It's like a general stream, not the intention of being songs. Sometimes it doesn't rhyme. It's just like journal, like kind of mindless journaling on a night or whatever. And then the good bits of that, I'll kind of put a box around and be like, come back to that. That's actually quite a cool sentiment. But I'm far more consistently lyrically inspired than I am musically inspired. The musical thing comes and goes. Every now and again I'll go, I really want to write a song, but I'm always just kind of jotting things down. Does that make sense?
100%. And there's a million different questions I want to ask you. I'm just conscious that that's the end of our allotted time for for that one. But so my final question for you for now is that if the people do want to find you, where can they find you? Where's the best place to find you?
They can find us wherever they want. They can find us at gonetomorrow band on Instagram. And Spotify and Apple Music. I'd say there's some streaming platforms and probably our most active social media as well.
Perfect, amazing. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Cheers.
Thanks.